Boom. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we got an episode all about how to amplify your brand, achieve industry leadership through media exposure, book publishing, and being authentic through public engagement. So let's get this show started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Boss!
In this, you got a brilliant vision, a groundbreaking book, and a desire to be recognized as an industry leader. Well, our guest today is the expert who can make that happen. He's the founder of the Empathy Firm, a company dedicated to helping business owners gain visibility, influence, and authority through media placement, podcast bookings, and more. So if you're ready to take your brand to the next level, stay tuned. But first, let's remember that this is not about the vanity metrics. It's about authentic public engagement and tracking the ROI. Our guest today can guarantee you some results, or you'll get your money back. Now, without further ado, let's welcome the mastermind behind humanity-driven PR, Mr. Grant Lira. My brother, welcome to the show.
That's fantastic. You got a heck of a setup here. This is great. Yeah. No, super happy to be here.
Dude, I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. I always feel like if you're not doing something fun, then you probably shouldn't be doing it at all, right?
I agree 100%. I like the pizzazz you put on what you do.
That's it, dude. Let's have some fun then. Let's start off with let's just, throw it out here. Everybody who comes on the show is promoting something. They got something that they want to talk about to get their message out. It's basically what you do for a living. So that's my question to you. First of all, what do you do for a living?
Yeah, so it can be boiled down into basically using conventional and non-conventional forms of media to get people in front of their ideal client profiles. What does that actually mean? We place people onto podcasts just like this one, where they would be speaking to, their ideal client profiles. We then take that content that we record long form, just like this, chop it up into a bunch of different short form vertical videos. And since we have our start in traditional press and PR, we also accompany that with traditional press and PR pieces that show up online. So you have a really powerful funnel working from all the way to the top, which is like the short form, easy discoverable stuff, middle of the funnel being the long form stuff, and then the call to action at the end of it. And then if people aren't too sure, they can either, one, they can go all the way to the bottom, or two, they can say, let me do a little bit of research. Let me see what's out there, give you a Google, see the press stuff come up all the way to the bottom. So that's kind of, in a very high level overview, what we do.
You are speaking my language, my brother. It's we're on the same boat here. We're doing a lot of the same stuff, which is really cool because when you get to talk to somebody who's in the same space, you get to see a whole different perspective on the same picture. That 10,000 foot overview looks a little different depending on where you're at, looking 10,000 feet down. So let me ask you, dude. Target audience is always the key. Whenever you're creating any marketing material, you got to know who exactly you're speaking to. So, I feel like every business needs marketing material, needs top of funnel, middle funnel, all those things. Who are you targeting to? Who are you targeting? Who are you talking to today?
Yeah, typically like the people that we work best with, we found three real, niches that we're kind of deep into now. Marketing firms. We're a marketing firm ourselves, so we understand how to grow one of those. Coaches and consultants is another big one because, a lot of what they do is built on their social proof and it's built on their recognition. And this does an awesome job of satisfying that need for them. And then also SaaS platforms. We see SaaS is getting really sticky, the software as a service. We use a ton of different SaaS tools in our stack. So it makes sense for us to kind of push that out to other people when they're really cool tools. Typically companies doing, over 7 figures a year, between 20, 200 employees. That's kind of our sweet spot.
Nice, man. Nice. And yeah, there's a lot of people who are very good, technically skilled at what they're doing, but getting their message out is probably not the easiest thing in the world for a lot of them. Whether it's I'm uncomfortable behind a microphone, or I don't like the way I look on camera, or I don't exactly know what to say. They're really good when they're shaking hands and talking to someone specifically, but creating marketing material could get kind of difficult. What's your education history like? How did you get here? Were you like, did you go the traditional route?
It's funny. So when I graduated high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And that actually led me into joining the Wisconsin National Guard here in Wisconsin. And I took kind of a gap year after school to do that. And I got to do some really cool things there. I got to get paid to jump out of airplanes and stuff like that. So it was super fun. And then I got back home and I kind of said, well, they'll pay for my school, so I'll go. And I ended up going to college, and I still had no idea what I wanted to do. I was just kind of there, which is not the right answer. But I was spending my time there, and I have a brother. His name is Gavin Lira. He's the person that co-founded the empathy firm with me. And it was a night when I was kind of sitting in my apartment, and I remember this very vividly. But he called me and he kind of told me the idea for the empathy firm. And I'm like, that's interesting. I have no idea why I'm here or like what I'm actually doing after this, which again is not the right answer. But yeah, I'd love to explore and see what this looks like. So over the course of the next like 4 months or so, me and him would do schoolwork because at the time he was in school with me actually. We would do our schoolwork during the day, do whatever else we needed to do, and then come like 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, we would find our way into one of the big buildings on campus and we'd set up shop in a classroom and we'd work till like 3, 4, 5 in the morning sometimes on scripting stuff, on website stuff, on crafting our offer and doing all that stuff that's kind of the more mundane and not as exciting stuff needed to build that base to set a business. So we did that for a long time. In that time, I actually joined an organization on my school, which was a business fraternity. And that really showed me that I enjoyed the front end of the business a lot. So the sales, the offer creation, the sales engineering and follow up, like I really found that stuff fun. And in the beginning, that's kind of what happened. I took all the front end work. Gavin, my brother, took all the back end work, and we started the empathy firm from there. And it essentially grew. I did end up finishing school. Gavin dropped out because the Army wasn't paying for his school, and it just didn't make sense for him to continue on that path. So we've been doing the empathy firm full time now for little over 6 years. And that's the, start to kind of, I missed a lot in the middle, but that's where we're at today now. And I can get into what more the empathy firm looks like now, but that's how it started and how everything kind of came to be.
Let's dive into that because I know that there's a lot of kids sitting here right now that don't know what they're going to do in college. I was the same way, man. I went to college just because that's what you were supposed to do next, but I didn't really know what I was doing there. I ended up dropping out like 2.5 years later, then didn't go back for another like 7 years. And that's when I finally knew what I was going to do. After I made a bunch of mistakes and after I failed a lot, then I was like, okay, now I know what I want to figure out there. So it's a little bit different. Now, you could have taken the skills that you got at college or the skills that you got in the National Guard and started a job. But why did you start in entrepreneurship? Why go with empathy when you might have had other prospects out there?
Yeah. And that wasn't an easy answer for me. When I was in school, I had a few internships. One of them was for a life insurance company. And long story short, I got through that process and got, brought on by them. I just didn't like how they operated and I thought it was kind of slimy. So I ended up leaving them for a different, smaller one that I resonated with a lot more. And it was at this time when me and Gavin were really starting to actually see the empathy firm gain traction. So it kind of came to, a decision to me. Do I want to pursue this path that I already have going that's definitely stable and secure in like the health life insurance space? Or do I, take this risk and kind of go with my brother and, see what we can create ourselves? And I think ultimately, you need to be prepared to fail for a long time. But I think that something that you actually mentioned earlier, all the failures is actually a blessing because if you can fail once and realize why you failed and then make notes to not do it again that way and test something new. As long as you're learning something from each failure, it's actually a win. So I did decide to, part ways with the other life insurance firm. I told them my situation. They were super understanding. I went all in with my brother, which I think was another component of kind of the trial by fire, do or die. We needed to succeed and we didn't really have another option to. So that was kind of my theory is I want to see what we're capable of. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But, if there's a way that it can work, we're going to find it. No matter how many times that we, need to fail. So failure for us never was really looked at as an option. We just needed to figure out the ways that it would work. And one of those, things and one of the reasons that we were able to do that was because of mentors that we met. Our first mentor we met online, fantastic dude. He helped us out a ton in making, mistakes that he made, telling us how not to make those mistakes, saved us a ton of time, a ton of money through that. And I highly recommend now, we have this age of basically everybody at our fingertips and reaching out to people who are in positions that you want to be and providing value to them, figuring out a creative way to reach out to them. And a lot of these people, if they're as successful as they are, they have no issues like saying, hey, I'd love to just, hop on a call and see if there's anything I can help with. And that's actually how we had like a lot of our long-term mentor relationship start, was just through an initial outreach on Instagram or Facebook or something like that, a social platform, and kind of going along with that. So I don't know if I got too in the weeds there, but that was kind of the thought process of school to now I'm doing this, my own thing, full time, and we can't fail here.
No, yeah, you burn the shits behind you, dude. There's no way you can go back. This is the only way is forward. Victory is the only way of survival, and that's how you're going to make it happen. That's obviously very uncomfortable for a lot of people, which is why they never take that big leap. They always have that backup plan, and it's always a safety net that's there. But I feel like you take away that safety net, now you only have that intent of success because there's nowhere else you can go from there. So let me ask you, if you were going to give some pearls of wisdom, some words of wisdom back to your younger version self, what advice would you give to somebody who's either just getting started or that younger version of yourself?
Yeah, there's the biggest thing I would say is success obviously does not come overnight. And in fact, you're going to find yourself having to start in a hole. And a lot of that is going to be digging yourself out of a hole and getting to the level of, okay, we tested this, it doesn't work. We tested this, it doesn't work. We tested this, we're not good at this. We tested this thing, it's broken on this end, right? And figuring that stuff out to the point where essentially, okay, we figured out what doesn't work, and now we're starting to figure out what works, kind of digging that hole to ground level. We have a system. Like, we have a system that we know is repeatable and it works. How are we going to scale that system? And what really comes into place there is anything you build in your business, make sure that you build it for permanency. And what I mean by that is like, document everything. If you're setting up a cold email system, if you're setting up a sales process, if you're setting up a fulfillment process, document it in depth. So that way, when you guys get to your bandwidth gets too short and you can't do this stuff by yourself anymore and you need to bring more people on, you already have the training material, you already know how to do it, and you can literally say, hey, we need this done. Here's a standard operating procedure of exactly how we do this thing. Let me know if you have questions. Build your business for permanence once you find something that works, and just be prepared to fail until you figure out something that works for you.
My brother is also it's funny, we have a lot of similarities there. My brother's the other business bro. And
Nice.
when we got into the insurance space, he's the systems guy. Plus, he spent 8 years in the Navy. So I'm wondering, is your military experience part of that process and procedure, developing the SOPs? Because what he told me was all these standard operating procedures in the military are written in blood. In other words, somebody got hurt, somebody got injured, and so a process was put in place so that doesn't happen again. Did the military kind of shape you in that sense?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like, unit level SOPs, stuff like that. They're all basically, yeah, they're there for a reason. Somebody didn't just make them up. And so kind of, when I went to basic training and advanced training, airborne school, when I did all that stuff, I definitely got a lot out of it personally. I got a lot of discipline out of it. I got a lot of work ethic that, I am thankful for this day from. But yeah, understanding that having a system and a process or an SOP like that you do it by the numbers every single time, and this is how it's done, is something that's so crucial for success. If you're building something, build it so anybody can run it. There's a quote from I think it's Sam Walton, the owner of Walmart, Sam's Club,
Walmart.
that stuff. Yeah. So he said basically, when you're building your systems, create them so an idiot could run them, because one day they will. And so making them very easy to understand, step-by-step video attachments, like all this stuff, really just making it like super idiot proof. So that way, and I'm not saying that in like a derogatory term, but basically if you're somebody who has no idea, has never touched the system before, they can just watch the steps and it's like, okay, easy. I know how to do this. So yeah, no, the military definitely helped a ton with, the discipline, the work ethic, understanding standard operating procedures. But yeah, there's a lot of takeaways from that side as well.
Let's face it, man. Okay, the SOPs were written in blood, right? In other words, you made the mistake, and then the procedure was written out so that nobody else makes a mistake. You literally write the SOPs for idiots because at some point you felt like an idiot. You made the mistake yourself, right? So, what was that big mistake that you made that probably taught you the greatest lesson?
Yeah, I think that the most important thing for businesses, especially when they're starting, is going to be sales, right? You need to have cash flow in order to have a business. And when we first started, we consumed some content online. We took some courses online, and I think that they were pretty good in a general sense, but really tailoring them to what works for you and what your clients or prospects actually want to, understand and want to achieve, and understanding what they want to achieve, and then creating a system that can basically guide them down that path. It is repeatable. You can do it every time. I'm not just talking about systems, right? I'm talking about like a sales process. These are the questions you have to ask. These are the qualifying things that we need to know. This is how we need to get somebody to move forward. If they're qualified, like understanding that process and creating that process to where it's something where I know that I have to ask these questions. I know that I have to explain what we do in a very simple way to understand. If you can work stories in there, amazing. And doing all that stuff so that way you have something repeatable that you can take from yourself. And when you're ready to hire a sales rep, train them on it, show them all of the calls that you've done. This is exactly how we do it. Go and basically go and do what we do. Having that sales process in the beginning is so important, because then it's going to allow you to actually improve and create your fulfillment process, which is the ultimate. You want to retain as many people as possible. That's where the real money is. It's not just getting people in the door, it's keeping them happy. And you can't keep people happy if you never have them come in the door in the first place. So really understanding how we're getting customers in the door and then how we're retaining them and keeping them happy is one of the biggest things, I think, for myself.
Yeah, too often I think businesses make a sale and then the transaction's over and it's done, when that's not necessarily the case. You spend so much money in acquiring this customer, whether you're creating content, you're taking time to go to networking events, whatever it is, the customer acquisition cost can be very high. For you to just make a sale and then let it disappear, it's ridiculous. A big business doesn't do that. A big business makes that transaction happen, but then nurtures that client continuously so that they have the ability to make sales over and over and over again. That's the entire sales process. It doesn't end at sale. That's just usually the beginning of what your relationship has. Do you have any examples, like a story of the way you've helped the client kind of go from where they wanted to be to where they are today?
Yeah, I'll actually share the first example of when I really felt that we made an impact in somebody's life, and it was kind of a crazy feeling because this is when we were still in college. So the empathy firm was super young, and at this time, we were working with a few different niches to try to test where we had the best fit. So this was a contractor, somebody who builds houses, and on the call I had with him, I learned a lot about his life, and he was in a spot where he really didn't want to be. He had two kids. They weren't in a great neighborhood. all of this stuff. And, kind of learning this about him, I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And obviously I want to help him out of that situation, but I didn't know if I necessarily had the belief in myself or our company, because we've never seen, a real impactful result we've done for somebody before, because we were so young. And so we started, working with him and doing these things for him. And I think about 6 months into working with him, he gave me a call and he's like, Grant, I just want to say thank you so much, because, we have secured all these extra jobs and we're making all this extra revenue we weren't making before, and I'm actually moving my family out of this neighborhood that I didn't like and was a bad neighborhood, and they're moving into a better school system and all this stuff. And I got off that call and I was like, wow. I at the time I think was 21 and my brother was 20. Maybe I was 22, he was 20. And I'm like, this person is around 40 years old. They're about as old as my dad is. And we, as 20-year-olds, actually made like a profound life-changing event happen for this person. And that for me was the light bulb, was the switch that flipped, where I was like, wow, what we're doing actually changes people's life if we do it the right way. And from that point on, I was like, I just keep chasing that feeling, because it's one of the most fulfilling things ever when you can make a real impact and change somebody's life. That's like up here on the level of like how pumped up I get talking about things.
Massive joy on that for sure. So when people hire you, they are hiring you for a specific reason. What's that thing that you do best? People go to Empathy Firm, this is what you're known for.
Yeah. So like if they have an announcement, if they have just, they need the right eyes on their company, which can obviously turn into leads, which turn into sales. If they want to just get their name out there, if they want to have more brand recognition, that's where we really shine. If they're looking to create that kind of holistic funnel through this content, like we're recording right now, that's what we do really well for people.
What's the struggle that you have with your company? Because every company has something they get really good at, and that's their main squeeze, right? That's their bread and butter. But almost every entrepreneur knows that their business is struggling with something that they need to improve upon, because if they get that thing more efficient or better, it just helps their bottom line. What's that for your company? What are you looking to improve?
Yeah. So transparently for us, it's always been scaling, in the sense that we have tended to wait too long before we scale. And that obviously introduces a host of issues, from slow fulfillment times to, really unorganized back ends of companies. So that was something that we really like had to, we realized we needed to get a grip of. And we actually talked to our mentor about this, because it happened to us distinctly 2 times. And he said that for his companies, he always scaled his companies when they were at about like 70% bandwidth, and he said, if you're at 70, you're probably going to be at 80, you're probably going to be at 90 very soon. That's when it's time to scale. So then, hey, feel like we're probably at about 70%. Let's start looking for some more team members to bring on, and hiring those team members, the right team members, is crucial, is an understatement, in terms of your culture, the client facing experience. Really take the time to understand what your company culture is and what you need to show the clients in order to, facilitate your culture. Because they're essentially the company when they're, interfacing with that employee. They rep the company. So having somebody who is an A player, who's on their game, who's super smart, charismatic, that's always super, super important to us.
And lastly, man, you're the CEO. You and your brother, anyways, are running this ship. You've helped different companies grow. You've helped kind of have that joy of helping people achieve their goals. What's the vision of your company? Where do you see yourself here in the near future? Where do you want to take your, well, basically Empathy Firm?
Yeah, so I'll speak more on my side of the business, which is the front end, the marketing, the acquisition, the offer creation, that sort of thing. I love teaching. That's something I'm super passionate about. I love to do it. I would love to be able to internally start to train a bigger sales team and really help to mentor these people, whether they want to stay with Empathy or go create a company of their own. Like we said before, how important sales is in business. So that way they have skills and real world experience on how to do that. The second thing that I see myself doing is I love giving back to people who are, just getting out of high school, just getting out of college, that kind of point in their life where they're like, what do I do now? There's so many paths in front of me. I don't necessarily know if this is something I want to pursue, or I do want to pursue this, but I want to take shortcuts, right? I want to see if there's anything I can learn to essentially get me past, digging out of that hole. Maybe I can get from here to here after a few conversations. And that's something I'm already doing a little bit of, which I love. I've connected with a few, graduates or, seniors in my old college who are, very entrepreneurial minded, and they have their own businesses or they're creating their own businesses. And I'll do like consulting, or I'll help them out or mentor them for a while. All just free. I really, like I said, for me, the mentorship that we had made such an impact on our business. And a lot of the mentors actually didn't even charge us any money. So for me, it's kind of, paying that forward and continuing to do that. And in the future, possibly even finding a way to do that at a larger scale and just putting out more content of my own where people, even if it helps, one or two people in a situation like that, that's the stuff that I really, really get excited about. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, man, of course. And lastly, man, if people want to reach out to you, they want to find out more about what Empathy Firms has to offer. They need some help with their sales funnel, marketing material, PR, getting on podcasts. How can they do that?
Totally. So there's two ways. The first way is to find me on Instagram, grant.lira, right there, grant.lira. The second way is, if, as a thank you to your listeners, they do actually qualify for a special offer we have here. If you want to get on a podcast of your own for free, we'll also go ahead and we will create 5 short form vertical videos for you and accompany that podcast with a traditional piece of press and PR. All you have to do is shoot me an email, grant@empathyfirm.com. Again, grant@empathyfirm.com. And for the subject line, just put Business Bros. So I know that you guys, qualify for this offer. So subject line, Business Bros, send me an email, just say what's up, and then we'll get you started on that process, get you that free podcast, that free content, that free press, just so you can see what it's like to work with us. And then afterwards, if you like it, we could talk about possibly working together longer in the future. But that's what I got as a thank you guys for listening.
Dude, love it. Free stuff is always good, ladies and gentlemen. You need that content every single day. Post it, especially if you're in business. Otherwise, you're going to be invisible. So creating content at scale is going to help you go from invisible to visible. Once you're online and they see you a bunch of times, you start becoming credible, and then that credibility leads to profitability. So make sure that you get your message out as much as you possibly can. And Grant's helping you do that. So check out empathyfirm.com, or you can shoot him a message on social at grant.lira, or shoot him an email, grant@empathyfirms.com. Grant, thank you very much again for being on the show today. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. That's all we got for you guys today. Peace. And we're out.
Thank you, guys.
It's over. Go home. Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast. But not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started today.